Good afternoon, everyone. I want to thank you all for joining us for our last of 4 information session webinars in the lead up to the CalTestBed application opening on July 25th, 2022. And I'd like to say that I'm delighted to be holding this webinar in partnership with our Regional Energy Innovation Cluster partner, Activate. And I'll introduce our colleague from Activate in a little bit. My name is Tenley Dahlstrom. I'm the director of the CalTestBed program at New Energy Nexus. And I'm going to start by just going through the agenda for our webinar today. So I'm going to provide a brief introduction to New Energy Nexus. Then I will introduce Activate and our speaker from Activate, Katie Sharp. I'll go over the overview of the CalTestBed program and the value proposition for entrepreneurs, program eligibility, how the application process works, what the review and selection process looks like, the application timeframe, and our agreement structure. And then we are going to leave some time at the end to address any questions you may have. I'd also like to invite you all to put any questions that you might have in the Q&A box in the Zoom, and my colleagues who are helping on the back end of this webinar from Momentum, Victoria and Kula. Victoria will be helping to manage the Q&A session from that question and answer box. Victoria is also going to be providing some interesting and helpful links in the chat box, so please keep your eye on that as well. So New Energy Nexus, it's an international organization that supports clean energy entrepreneurs with funds, accelerators, and networks. And we actually started in Oakland, California, and have grown to include programs in China, Thailand, Vietnam, Indonesia, the Philippines, India, Australia, Uganda, and Nigeria. I'm really delighted to be representing New Energy Nexus in leading the CalTestBed program. And I'd like to introduce our partner from Activate, Katie Sharp, and she's going to give you a brief overview of the support Activate provides to clean energy entrepreneurs in the California ecosystem.
Thanks so much, Tenley. I really appreciate the invitation to be here today. So at Activate, we empower scientists to reinvent the world by bringing their research to market. We are a nonprofit founded in 2015, and we provide a 2-year entrepreneurial fellowship funded by government and philanthropy. And you can see some of our sponsors at the bottom of this slide. And we, call ourselves a fellowship rather than an accelerator or an incubator for a couple of key reasons. First is that there's no requirement for fellows to give Activate equity in exchange for participation in the fellowship. And second of all, we really support our fellows as people first. And so we really believe that the best way to bring technology to market is to support the people who have developed that technology. And so we really work with them through the 2 years of the fellowship for them to develop as leaders and entrepreneurs. We focus on 8 industries to address global challenges. We do have an emphasis on technologies that will have an impact on climate and sustainability, because we really think that that's the biggest challenge of our times. However, what we really want to support is great people working on impactful technology across a broad range of industries and areas. And so we really have a broad focus. Thus far, we've supported 142 Activate fellows across 8 cohorts, and we are currently supporting fellows nationally. So what does our 2-year fellowship really look like? The first thing is that we support fellows financially through a living stipend of $80,000 to $110,000 a year, plus a travel allowance and health insurance. Fellows companies also receive $100,000 in money for research and development, and new, starting with cohort 2022 this year, they have access to at least $100,000 in additional flexible capital. And so one of the things that's interesting that we see is that fellows tend to come to us, largely for the financial support. But at the end of the fellowship, they often find that what was the most valuable was the community. Being an entrepreneur can be a very lonely journey. And so by being in a community of other founders and having the supportive Activate staff and the other people in the Activate network, that journey becomes a lot less lonely, and you're really working in a community. And we found that is one of the things our fellows value most coming out of the fellowship. As much as we want to support people first, people can't develop technology without access to the tools that they need for that tech. And so we partner with labs to provide the world-class tools for scientists. In Berkeley, we partner with Lawrence Berkeley National Lab, and that was our sort of founding relationship. And finally, we support our fellows through entrepreneurial education, and that takes the form of weekly programming sessions that continue throughout the duration of the 2-year fellowship. But also each fellow is paired with a managing director for a one-on-one mentoring and coaching relationship that we really think is very impactful for our teams. So as I mentioned, we are now able to support fellows across the country, which is very exciting. The fellowship was founded in Berkeley in 2015. We then expanded to Boston in 2019 and just onboarded our 3rd cohort of fellows in Boston. And this year, we've actually expanded to 2 new communities, a community in New York, and finally what we're calling our Activate Anywhere community. We, like everyone during COVID, had to take things online to the virtual world, and we're surprised at how well we were able to support fellows virtually. And so we formalized this with our Activate Anywhere fellowship, a fellow community that is nationally distributed across the United States. And we recognize that talent is everywhere, but resources are not equally distributed. And so we're excited to be able to bring the resources of the Activate Fellowship to meet fellows where they are and where they live. So we are currently starting recruitment for our cohort 2023 fellows. Our registration opens on August 15th, and applications will open on September 15th, and they will be due at the end of the day on October 31st. From November to January, we'll be reviewing those applications internally and then announcing our finalists in February. Those finalists will have the chance to present at a virtual pitch to the Activate community as the final step in our application process before we select fellows in March, with an anticipated start date for cohort 2023 of June 1st. We have some information sessions coming up to help people learn more about the fellowship and whether it might be a good opportunity for them. Our first one is actually tomorrow. We have our first general application webinar, and then we're going to be having a fellow Q&A panel next week. And then more application webinars coming up. And the fellow Q&A panel is a great opportunity to hear from our current fellows and alumni about what it's really like to be a fellow. So those are our July info sessions. There will also be information sessions throughout the months of August, September, and October until applications close. And you will be able to find those and updated information, as well as more information about what it means to be a fellow and how to apply at activate.org/apply. So with that, I just again like to thank Tenley and CalTestBed for inviting me here today to present. I encourage you to put questions in the chat, and I'll be sticking around. So if you do have any questions for me, I can answer those at the end of the session. And with that, I'll turn it back over to Tenley.
Brilliant. Thank you, Katie. We so deeply appreciate our Regional Energy Innovation Cluster partners, and Activate is such a terrific program and organization. We appreciate your partnership. So now I'm going to move on to the CalTestBed overview and what is the value proposition for entrepreneurs. The California Testbed Initiative it's a laboratory voucher and commercialization development program for innovators and entrepreneurs working to bring mid to later stage clean energy concepts to market. It's made possible by a grant from the California Energy Commission, and that is funded with electric program investment charge funds, which I'll discuss a little bit later. So CalTestBed provides entrepreneurs vouchers of up to $300,000, depending on the scope of work that's developed and what is needed to conduct the proposed testing. And we have locations at more than 60 testbed facilities throughout the Lawrence Berkeley National Lab and 9 different University of California campuses. So we really do have facilities all over the state, and we have a vast variety of capabilities at all of these facilities. So it's very exciting that we've been expanding. We started with only 28 facilities, and now we have more than 60. So CalTestBed recognizes entrepreneurs really struggle to access these world-class testing facilities to de-risk their technologies and accelerate towards commercialization. And so that is the entire purpose of this program, is to provide entrepreneurs this access while they're able to maintain their IP and gain access to a broad network of commercialization partners. And you can see the logos on the bottom. So we're funded by the California Energy Commission. We have memoranda of understanding with the University of California Office of the President and Lawrence Berkeley National Lab as implementation partners. And then we have 2 subcontractors, our friends at Momentum that are helping with this webinar today, and our friends at Lacey, who have helped us with our national symposium. So the benefits of CalTestBed are that entrepreneurs will gain access to up to $300,000 worth of testing. And this is testing at one of the participating test beds to cover the cost of their testing their prototype. So entrepreneurs need to have an existing prototype to apply, and they will have the cost of their testing covered. And so it's a very exciting opportunity to gain access to these highly skilled individuals and amazing testing facilities. You'll also get a powerful network of resources from the UC system and Lawrence Berkeley National Lab and New Energy Nexus, which is a global organization that has an enormous network. There's also a network that's supported by the California Energy Commission, this regional energy innovation network. And there's a lot of support within the state of California and the clean energy ecosystem here. You'll also get opportunities to present and really access your targeted customer groups. So I mentioned the regional innovation clusters. This is Lacey, Activate, Blue Tech Valley, and Southern California Energy Innovation Network. This is our final webinar in the run-up to the CalTestBed application opening. And we've had an information session in partnership with each of these regional organizations to really try to make sure that the entire state of California and every community has access and is informed about this opportunity. So now I'd like to go into a little bit about our eligibility for the program and what kind of innovations CalTestBed will fund. So we're focusing on technology readiness level 5 to 7. These are TRLs that require an existing prototype. So TRL 5 is a laboratory scale prototype, TRL 6 is an engineering scale prototype, and TRL 7 is a full scale prototype. So these are the eligible TRLs, and you have to be in one of these eligible TRLs at the time of your application. CalTestBed will fund hardware or integrated solutions that fit into one of the 10 defined technology types. So some people don't have a clear understanding of what an integrated solution is. It must feature a piece of hardware that works in conjunction with a software program to deliver the technology's benefits. And so the hardware has to be innovative as well. You can't just have a software innovation that works with existing hardware. The hardware also has to be innovative and novel. And we will not provide testing for standalone software solutions. I also want to mention that any company that is a CalSeed awardee, which is a sibling program to the CalTestBed program, they have to have completed their concept award and must have submitted their final reporting to be eligible for CalTestBed. CalSeed is run by my colleagues that manage that program. That program is specifically for technology readiness level 2 to 4. And CalTestBed is meant as a follow-on to that program. So if you are still in the CalSeed program, you are not eligible and have not finished your concept award and submitted your final reporting, you are not considered eligible for CalTestBed. So these are the 10 technology types. I know that this is really challenging to read, but I'm just going to go over the types. And in the application manual, you can read the detailed definitions of each of these technology types here. So it's building technologies, energy efficiency, energy storage, grid technologies, industrial and agricultural innovation, Internet of Things, material-based, renewable generation, transportation, and water technologies. And each of these has to have an element of energy or electricity to be eligible. So it can't just be, a new type of agricultural piece of equipment. It has to have a clean energy aspect to it. So the eligibility criteria is as follows. The applicants have to be California-based. They have to have a California address, a business address, and they need to be registered and in good standing with the California Secretary of State as a business entity. Applicants also need to have their innovations aligned with EPIC goals. And I mentioned EPIC previously, that's the Electric Program Investment Charge, which is where the funding comes from. And those goals are to reduce the costs for California ratepayers, increase grid reliability in California, and improve the safety of California's energy mix. Those goals are tied to California ratepayers because the ratepayers are the ones that provide the funding for the EPIC funds. So that's why we also require these applicants to be in California and operating in California. So I already mentioned the TRL levels. And then I also want to mention that individuals and teams can apply, businesses can apply, and nonprofit organizations can apply. However, universities cannot apply as a standalone entity. If there's a research team within a university that has some sort of organization or entity that they would like to apply as, they may, but you cannot apply as the university, as the applying organization. So how does this work? How does the application process work? The process is that you will log in and apply online. There's an eligibility and technical review. And then following the technical review, there's a lab scoping consultation with the principal investigators at the lab. And then the CEC reviews the statement of work that's developed during those consultations and hopefully approves them quickly. And then the vouchers awarded, the contracts are executed, and then your testing can begin. And so in terms of the application review and selection process, the application, once the application period opens, you can apply. The application button will be on our website at caltestbed.com. We'll also be sending out lots of social media about the application opening with information about how to apply and registration links through social media as well. So please follow CalTestBed on Twitter and follow CalTestBed on LinkedIn, and you'll get those announcements. Then part one of the application really includes a set of initial eligibility questions that ensure that the project meets the geographic, technical readiness level, EPIC alignment, technology type guidelines, and that the applicant has reviewed and agrees to the contracting templates, terms, and conditions. That is critical, and I would recommend that every applicant read those contracts that are there, because none of that language will be changed. We are not negotiating the contracting language. The only thing that is negotiable is that statement of work that is developed with the laboratory that you've requested to partner with. Then the second part of the application is the part that is scored by our technical reviewers. So the technical reviewers will look at innovation, scalability, feasibility, and market potential. And each of those responses will give you a limit of 500 words to write long form and address those 4 criteria. Now, in the application manual, there will be a lot of guidance about what is expected in your responses to each of those questions. So I highly recommend looking at the application manual and following it, very closely as you're submitting your application. Additionally, the application will require that you select your top 3 lab choices from the participating testbed partners, which you'll find in the CalTestBed directory. And I believe Victoria has already added a link to the updated CalTestBed directory for 2022. So you should check that out and see what labs are available in advance of the application opening up, and get an idea of which labs you might want to rank as your top 3 as you apply to the program. I mentioned these innovation, feasibility, scalability, and market potential criteria. Each one of those sections is weighted the same. So there's no weight difference on that. There's no more preference towards innovation versus market potential. And so the technical reviewers will be looking at that, and each application will have 3 technical reviewers providing scores that are then averaged. And those technical reviewers will be subject matter experts in the technology type that you have identified as your technology type among those 10. So we are working with very deep subject matter experts on this, and they will be really scrutinizing your applications and providing scoring based on their expertise. In terms of the selection process, the only diversity metrics that we can incorporate into our selection process are geographic diversity criteria. And so that is why we're working with each of our regional partners. So Activate is the representative for the greater San Francisco Bay Area. Then we have Lacey in the greater LA area. Clean Tech San Diego, which is also the Southern California Energy Innovation Network. They are in the greater San Diego area. And then Blue Tech Valley is in the Central Valley area. And they are working, each of these regional partners are working with entrepreneurs throughout the state. So when we conduct our test, our review, the scoring, we look at the top scoring entrepreneurs or applicants within each of these geographic areas. And we try to ensure that we have around the same number coming from each of these geographic areas throughout the state of California. And this is to ensure that not only are we benefiting entrepreneurs and innovators throughout the state, but we're also benefiting the communities throughout the state that these entrepreneurs operate in. The laboratory scoping consultations, these happen once the scoring has been conducted and the technical reviewers have finalized their final recommended voucher recipients. We take a look at those recommended voucher recipients and match them up with the laboratories, hopefully with their top lab choice for these scoping consultations. And these during these discussions, these are very structured discussions. It will include the principal investigator at the laboratory and the entrepreneur so that everybody has a clear understanding of what capabilities the lab has, and we can have a reality check of, what can be done within the budget and time kind of parameters of CalTestBed, because CalTestBed allows for 9 months of laboratory testing with 1 month extra to set up the testing and 1 month extra to tear down the testing. But there's a 9-month in-lab testing time limit. That time limit can be paused if there is a reason for that. And we've had to do that because of supply chain issues in the past. We've had to do that because of COVID restrictions over the last couple of years. And so you can press pause on your project if necessary, but we have to have a decent reason for that. The outcome of this consultation process is then the beginning of a statement of work, which outlines the scope and schedule for the testing protocol that is being proposed. Then the campus personnel, either the team at LBNL or one of the UC campuses that you're working with, they put the budget to the scope and schedule, because only they will know how much it costs to conduct the testing that's been outlined. And so there needs to be a clear understanding on both sides of what's possible within the parameters, and that the budget can be up to $300K, but the CEC does not just automatically approve every $300,000 proposal that comes through, because it needs to be matched with the level of effort that the scope of work requires. So once that statement of work is developed, it is provided to me, I iterate with the team, and then the CEC reviews and hopefully approves it very quickly so that it can then move on to contracting and getting the testing started. So the application timeline, we are in our last workshop in the lead up to opening the application. As you can see here, the application will be open from July 25th to August 19th. The application deadline is 11:59 Pacific time on August 19th, 2022. So please, we have plenty of time before August 19th. Please look at the materials. Please get yourself centered and look at the application manual and start developing the responses to these questions so that you're not, skidding in sideways at 11:58 p.m. on August 19th. I would love to have some of these applications in early, and I don't want you guys all to get stressed out at the very last minute turning them in at 11:59. The review process will begin August 22nd, 2022, and we will end October 20th, 2022. And on that date is the date that I will be meeting with all of the subject matter experts who are technical reviewers to determine the final slate of recommended applicants. The laboratory consultations are done, as the entrepreneurs and the lab folks are ready to have their discussions. And that will start the week of November 21st. There will be 3 rolling deadlines for those statements of work from the group that's recommended. And we're hoping to keep on schedule with those 3 rolling deadlines. We don't want to hold up anybody that's done early from getting the CEC approval by making everybody have like one single deadline. So that's why we're having this rolling process of 3 deadlines so that the early birds can benefit from getting their stuff in early and getting an early approval. And then once you're approved, then the contracting is executed, and then you can begin testing, hopefully as per the schedule that's listed in your statement of work. And I've mentioned the agreements and executing the agreements. So the structure is that CalCEF, which is the legal entity name, is CalCEF Ventures. That's my organization, New Energy Nexus. We are funded through the California Energy Commission to lead this work in partnership with our implementation partners at the University of California Office of the President and Lawrence Berkeley National Lab. We have agreements with each of the 10 campuses, and we're counting Berkeley Lab as one of the 10 campuses. We have this user agreement for test beds that's between my organization and the test beds. Then the test bed has an agreement with the entrepreneur, which is called the User Agreement for Entrepreneurs. And that agreement has the approved and signed statement of work attached to it as an attachment A. And then my organization and the entrepreneur also have a voucher recipient agreement that also has the statement of work attached as an attachment A. And that attachment is what binds all of these agreements together into one package that allows us to move forward and provide the testing to the entrepreneurs who have been recommended. I want to let everybody know that right now online, we have the last year's application manual available. I have been making minor tweaks to it to clarify some of the language and update some of the links. And I'm hoping to have that available online in the next week or so, but we will make sure that we announce it when it is up and available. But it will certainly be available prior to the opening of the application. We also have a brand new facilities directory link that Victoria's provided in the chat, and that has all the updated available laboratories and capabilities for the 2022 cohort. And then once we are ready to have you start applying, there is a little video that shows how to set up your application login account. And so there is a link to that. We will be circulating that, and that will also be available on the CalTestBed website. I would also like to encourage all of you to please connect with our ecosystem. New Energy Nexus is a gigantic organization now. We have a lot of offices globally, and we have a New Energy Nexus newsletter, and we also have a Slack network called the New Energy Network. There's almost 5,000 entrepreneurs and folks who have signed up to that New Energy Network Slack channel. So I encourage you to use that space to connect with other entrepreneurs, potential funders, learn more about funding opportunities, all of that. There's a global network in that Slack channel. We also have a YouTube channel that you can follow. And then I really encourage you to follow us on both Twitter and LinkedIn so that you can get the latest information about the companies that we're supporting, and as we're celebrating their successes on social media, and any kind of new opportunities that we're providing. Finally, I want to mention the Empower Innovation Network. That is a platform that is funded by the California Energy Commission, and it is a clearinghouse of partners, funding opportunities, events, all of these things. It's an extremely useful platform for clean energy innovators in California and beyond. So I encourage you to go on Empower Innovation and see what kind of goodies are on there that can be helpful for you as you're working to, accelerate your innovation. And now I'd like to open it up for any questions that folks might have, and ask Victoria to pop on and help moderate our Q&A if there's any questions.
I have a few in the chat.
Okay.
Can you please explain why software isn't fundable?
The reason why standalone software is not covered under the CalTestBed program is because the California Energy Commission, the funder of this work, has determined that it's harder for hardware innovations to get access to testing, that it's a lot easier for software innovations to access testing. And so they're trying to provide this support to hardware and integrated solutions to kind of flatten out that valley of death in this space.
Thank you. What if I'm already in partnership with a facility that is not included in the current facilities directory? What do you recommend I do?
Well, look into the facilities directory and see what is available under the program. We are not incorporating additional test beds or campuses or testing facilities right now. We have more than 60 available under our network, and there is a possibility that you could conduct testing at the lab you're already with. I don't know if that's a UC facility or a national lab facility, but you can do testing in tandem. But we're not going to be incorporating external facilities until, there's something that I am trying to do is constantly grow, but what's available in the directory is what's available. And so every year I try to make sure that there's more availability in there, and I welcome suggestions from partners and anybody who's interested in helping us to expand our network of facilities. If you have suggestions of facilities I should approach or individuals I should partner with, please let me know, because I am always looking to expand. But for the 2022 cohort, what's in the directory is what's available.
Thank you. Can CalTestBed meet with me one-on-one to give me guidance about my application?
No, that's why we're having these webinars, because we are a very lean staff and I do not have time, nor does my one other colleague have time to meet with applicants one-on-one. And that's why we're providing all of this information in the application manual and all of the informational webinars that we've been doing to explain the eligibility and provide guidance.
Thank you. What about the different laboratory/test areas within an existing UC that's already in the list of partners? I believe that's in regard to the last question.
Yeah, if you have suggestions of places that we should expand to, that could be under consideration for the next round. But right now we have just finished our expansion for this year and just published our updated directory for 2022.
Thank you. If I was not chosen for last year's cohort, can I reapply with the same concept?
Absolutely. You may reapply with the same concept. I encourage folks to, we really want to encourage people to, work on their innovation. And if you were not selected in last year's round, just make sure that you look at the application manual, make sure that you really do fulfill all of the application criteria, because we're going to be doing that due diligence. And if there is anybody who submits information that they know is not true, like they are not a California company, if they're not registered with the Secretary of State, there will be companies, or we will consider disqualifying companies if we see information on there that's not accurate. So I just encourage anybody who's applied previously to make sure they look at the application manual and follow that manual and address all of the questions that we include in there. Everything that we ask on the application is included in the manual. So there's no surprises about what you'll be asked, and you can be very prepared to respond to all of the questions.
Thank you. Can a historical acceptance rate to CalTestBed be shared?
It's been a kind of weird acceptance rate because our last cohort was right in the middle of COVID. And so we had fewer applicants at that time because we were conducting our outreach right as, COVID was happening. So we got, I think there were a little more than 80 applications that were submitted last time. Of that 80, 60 were eligible. They were deemed eligible. And then of that 60, 15 were recommended. In the first cohort, I think there were 102 that were submitted. Of the 102, I think 80 something, I can't remember the exact number, but I know it was in the 80s, were deemed eligible. And of that 80, 25 were selected.
Thank you.
Our goal is for this next round to have around, between 20 to 30 selected. I think probably 28 would probably be the highest we would go, but yeah, around that number.
Thank you.
Sure.
When will CalSeed open up?
Oh, so anybody who is not in the correct TRL and they're interested in CalSeed, I encourage you to stay tuned. I know the next cohort of CalSeed will be solicited for, and the application will open in Q1 of 2023. They just onboarded a new cohort from this year. And so, January, February, March 2023 is when the next CalSeed round will be open.
Thank you. Is there any overlap in Activate and CalTestBed application process? For example, is there a benefit for my application if I participated in Activate before or vice versa?
Well, there's not bonus points, but I think the fact that one of the things about Activate and our other regional partners, Lacey, Blue Tech Valley, and Clean Tech San Diego, is they really help entrepreneurs prepare for the next stage. And so they also help inform the entrepreneurs that they work with about CalTestBed and help, make sure that eligible entrepreneurs that they're working with apply to CalTestBed. So they understand what CalTestBed's all about. They understand that eligibility requirements. And so you don't get extra points for having been in the ecosystem before. But I think overall, I think that it's a very mutually supportive ecosystem. And the way that the California Energy Commission sees it is that these regional partners are working to help early stage innovators. And then CalSeed is a statewide support system. CalTestBed is the next thing in the support pipeline for innovators. And then they have the bridge and ramp grants that they give as organizations mature and as their TRL goes up. They have a whole pipeline of support, and it's really very strategic and really thoughtful.
Thank you.
Sure.
This question is for Katie. Could you please talk a little bit more about the types of companies Activate accepts that aren't necessarily sustainability or climate focused? What other types of impact are acceptable?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think we have a few things. So first of all, we have exceptions that break all of our rules that you can find on our website. So, but in general, so we don't have any really 100% hard and fast rules, but in general, similar to CalTestBed, we don't, we rarely, if ever, support purely software companies. And the reason for that is that we think that there's just a certain set of challenges that face hard tech and hardware startups that don't face software startups. And we really feel like we can add the most value to those companies. And we don't as a rule, do biomedical, also because there's a whole separate ecosystem of support that's really available and specialized to help those kinds of companies. That being said, some of the things that we have supported are, we certainly have had a lot of microelectronics companies, people doing LiDAR and advanced computing and things of that nature. Really what we're looking for are great leaders working on impactful technologies. So we don't have any hard and fast rules. We have not yet had any space technologies, but we are there's a lot of people activated who are very enthusiastic and would like us to have some space fellows. So I think in general, as I said, general rule is no software and no biomedical, but beyond that, and it's okay if things have a possible application. If it's like a platform technology has a possible application in biomedical, as long as there are also, that's not the main focus. So yeah, I know that's a sort of vague and maybe not the most helpful answer, but we really do take a broad approach, and we're just really looking, again, for really great people who are doing hard things that we can help them along the way in their journey.
Katie, do you have a specific TRL that you look for Activate?
Generally, I would say the earlier the better. So we really see our sweet spot as helping first-time entrepreneurs really go from 0 to 1 in the formation of their companies. Our most stereotypical founder is someone coming directly out of their PhD or postdoc. They're starting a company. They may have to incorporate their company to begin the participation in our fellowship. We take people who are further along, and certainly happy to have people who are doing mid-career transitions, but that is our most common thing, and yeah, the earlier the better for us.
Thank you.
Could you also share a little bit about the historical acceptance rates for Activate?
Our historical acceptance rates are under 10% of applications that apply. I would have to go back to look at those numbers, but it is under 10%. It's a pretty competitive and rigorous application process. I think last year we got, oh gosh, I'm gonna goof up the numbers if I try to do them. So, but it's a low acceptance rate. It's under 10%.
I think Activate has been around for a long time too. You're in your 7th year right now. So I think that as more and more people understand the value proposition and it's becoming more and more broadly known, the acceptance rate gets a little bit more challenging. There's more competition.
It does, yeah. And I think with the expansion to the different communities around the country, and especially with our Anywhere cohort, we do have the goal of being able to support more people, because we recognize there's more talent, really great talent and really great ideas out there than what we're able to support. So we are scaling, but as quickly as we can. I'll say that.
Excellent. And I also want to mention in the New Energy Nexus ecosystem in the United States, we also have a program that we're doing in partnership with the Rocky Mountain Institute that has an open application right now called Third Derivative. That may be something that entrepreneurs on this call might be interested in looking at. And I also want to mention, I'm providing support on the justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion aspects of the American-made challenges. And so for anybody that has a solar innovation that's on the line, the US Department of Energy and National Renewable Energy Labs are doing their 6th round of the American-made Solar Prize competition. They just had a webinar on the 13th that goes over who is eligible and what they're looking for. But the application, I believe, is opening in October. So for anybody who has a solar or solar enabling technology, I would encourage you to look at the American-made challenges opportunity as well, as that's a national program. And that's a prize program that just provides non-dilutive prize funding in 3 different stages. There's a ready, set, and a go stage. So I encourage you to take a look at that. And American Made Challenges is not purely for solar. This particular prize competition is solar, but they have a lot of different technology areas that they hold prize competitions for. And so there's like climate forecasting and water technologies and all kinds of different things. And they're doing both software and hardware. So I would like to encourage you to take a look at that, because that could be a really great resource for entrepreneurs.
Thank you. That concludes my question and answers.
Okay, and if there are no more questions, I just want to thank everybody for your time and your interest in CalTestBed. Katie, thank you so much for presenting the awesome support that Activate provides to clean energy entrepreneurs. And I want to thank Kula and Victoria for their excellent help. I'm really excited about the interest in CalTestBed, and we've just had an amazing week where we've had 3 of our companies get Rocket Fund awards. We had 1 company get a Keeling Curve prize. Another company just announced $130 million Series B raise and a partnership with Microsoft and Alaska Airlines. So CalTestBed really does help companies accelerate towards commercialization. And we try very hard to make sure that we highlight all of the successes of our companies. So I appreciate your interest, and I look forward to reviewing your applications. I hope you all have a great afternoon. Thank you, and take care.